Exclamation, everybody, and welcome back to Cube Ramblings. For me, it is a Sunday morning, March the 22nd, 2015. Hope everyone's had a great week. I have been having a very, very good week. I'm feeling a lot better than I've felt in a while, and having some fun and other things going on. So, very cool stuff indeed. Again, very, very late at night for me, unfortunately. It seems like I can't get one of these episodes recorded much earlier than this, but hopefully it's still going to work out okay without me, trailing off about 45 minutes into it and going into some sort of zombie stupor here. But yeah, it's been a very, very cool week. I'm starting to actually get caught up with things as far as the channel is concerned. I'm getting, it's back into a routine, and I'm starting to actually finish off some games. I recorded the last couple episodes of Republic Commando, so those will be coming up soon. There will be two more episodes left of that, so about an hour left of that. All told, took me about 9 hours, just over 9 hours to get through the full campaign, which is pretty cool. It's it's a really difficult game. This is, it harkens back to the old days of games, even when you put them on, easy mode, that they were still really difficult. And that was most definitely the case in this. And I had to drop it down to easy mode just to get through it. And you don't see that too much anymore. Nowadays, it's, you have to really crank it up to hard to really have a really, really difficult time at things, which is good and bad. I kind of like that I can actually get through games now a little bit easier than I could before. They're not quite as frustrating as they were. But at the same time, there are occasions when it's like, okay, hard mode needs to be a little bit harder sometimes. That said, I'm not big on the hard mode anyway on video games, so I'm kind of glad to let that fall by the wayside. And there's theories about that too. There's theories that, like, when games were in their infancy, or well, they still kind of are in their infancy, but I guess we're more in our angsty teenage years now than they are in their infancy. But when they were younger, the push, the drive was really about arcade machines, and arcade cabinets always sort of had that built-in difficulty where they were difficult to an almost unfair extent, because the whole goal was to get you to pump quarters into that thing like there's no tomorrow. And early video games sort of took a lot of that difficulty and made it part of them. Even though that they were on consoles or they were on the PC, a lot of them, still followed that same difficulty curve, because that's kind of what the way games were. And then as they grew up a little bit more, as the industry grew up a little bit more, and more people have gotten involved in it, into the I guess the hardcore gaming population, if you will. It seems like they've adjusted the difficulty levels back down to a level where a mere mortal could get through them without too much difficulty, which is good for me, because that's I remember many a time in what was the one that really gave me the most problems, but that I actually got through. I would say, obviously everybody has tales of Battletoads and all that stuff, but I never actually played Battletoads because it was just too damn unfair. I think for me it was, we rented a game, the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, I believe we rented. And I remember the underwater level, which I think was like level 2 in that game, where you had to go around and disarm bombs underneath a bridge or something, and you only had about 2 minutes or 3 minutes or something to disarm those bombs, and all along the way there was these weird electric eel things that would just completely decimate you if you got, if you touched any of them. And I remember it being just a constant frustrating thing where it's like, okay, I'm on playthrough number 22 here and I'm still trying to get through this damn level. But once you did get through it, it was very, very satisfying, but it was still one of those things that you just remember from your childhood. That was like, okay, this is this is my first experience with just being absolutely terrible at something and not being able to improve at all. Until you eventually do improve, but then you look at it and you're like, well, how did I even do that? What did I even do differently other than the fact that I had knowledge of the level at that point, right? I mean, there was no way going into that level completely blind that you would get through it in that first try, unless you were extremely lucky or just incredibly badass. And I guess, you still see some examples of that even now, where it's like, oh, these like Metroidvanias and platformer things, hey, we're going to throw this really hard difficulty, level at you, and it's going to be one of those where you're expected to fail the first time through so that you can actually see how the level is laid out. And those, I mean, even today, those feel a little bit cheaty to me because it's like, oh, we're going to use our knowledge as the benevolent overlords of gaming to, as the developers of the game, to punish you just because we can. It's like, well, that's not really very sporting of you. I like my gaming to be a little bit more sporting, if you will. Yeah, that was, I don't even know how I got off on that tangent, but I did. Oh, I was also thinking, I guess the other reason I got off on that tangent is because I've been playing, so, I mean, that was obviously talking about the difficulty in Republic Commando, which I finished finally. But then it also brings up, I was playing some more of Wolf the Red Hood Diaries, and, recording a bunch of things just a few hours before I'm recording this here, and there is a platforming section coming up. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it literally took me 45 minutes to get through this platforming section, which I'm probably going to have to heavily edit, and I kept dying in the same spot, and I just couldn't figure it out until I realized, oh wait, there's this mechanic that I've been using before, but never actually used it in this capacity yet, and I should probably use that right now. And I did, and then suddenly the whole world was open to me. But it's just one of those things where it's like you're just pounding your head on the wall, and you just cannot figure out what you're doing wrong, because obviously you're doing something wrong, but you just can't fathom it yet. And then you have that epiphany moment, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, so basically the game's just telling me I'm stupid, which I already knew, but it feels particularly bad when you just see it, when it just basically exposes that raw stupidity to your own face. It's like, hey, it's like it shines a spotlight back on you, like, hey, look, player, you suck. And here's how badly you suck, because the answer to your riddle was so freaking easy. Your dilemma was not a dilemma at all. It was not intended to be one. We just, we figured you would know exactly what you were supposed to do here. But I really enjoyed playing Republic Commando. If I take a step back and think about my commentary in it, not so great, kind of boring, because I was really into the game, and this is kind of one of those weird balances, right? This is one of those things that's like, I'm really into the game, but and I'm really focused. By being into the game, I mean I'm really focused. There's other ways of being into the game, namely Battlefield Hardline, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But I was very focused and trying to get through the game and make sure I collected everything and knew what I needed to do next and everything else. And the difficulty of that is, for me anyway, is that if I get too focused on a game, my commentary suffers because I'm not focused on making it entertaining. And it's one of those very delicate things you gotta do where it's like, okay, I gotta be somewhat entertaining, but at the same time I still want to not be just a complete and utter failure here and run around going, I don't know what I gotta do next, I don't know what I have to do next. And then when I go full on the other way, you have a good example of that if you look on my Twitch channel from this Friday's stream. You'll see many moments in there where I was failing for really no good reason at all, other than I was focused on trying to be entertaining at the same time as mocking what I was seeing. And I think I succeeded in being the entertaining thing. I just was not very good at the actual, moving forward in the game. Even despite the chat telling me what I needed to do, I wasn't really paying attention to chat either, and that's pretty damn evident when you look at it. But I was playing. On Friday, I was playing Battlefield Hardline, the single-player stuff. I've decided that I'm going to leave that on Twitch. I don't think I'm going to, even though I recorded it, I don't think I'm going to upload it to YouTube. Mostly because they, even though I turned the radio and stuff off in the game, there's a lot of incidental music as you're going into particular areas that is most definitely copywritten, and I would rather just let the VOD be muted than to deal with YouTube and having to try to remove all those sections and add my own music in, and also I have this really bad setup right now as far as recording through OBS is, where, first of all, OBS, for the longest time, they've had a feature request out that they keep saying that they're going to do it someday, where it's, hey, when you record something, we would like it so that, our audio tracks or the microphone track is a separate track from all the other audio, and, just like every other halfway decent video recording software does, but they haven't addressed that yet. So everything goes in as one stream, which is kind of sucks, because you can't then manipulate the volumes of each individual thing, and I can't pull my voice out and clean it up a bit, which is what it really needs a lot of. And also, the other problem with OBS is that if I don't turn microphone boost on, you can't hear me at all. And so by microphone boosting, it also boosts all the background noise that I can usually filter out, given some time in Audacity. I can usually filter out most of the background noise that you hear. Like, for instance, right now, I know that there's going to be the low hum, and you hear that a lot in my videos. There's just like a low hum in the background. And that's my laptop fan blowing, because the fan kicks into high gear due to it being the thing that is actually recording my voice right now, and it just sort of kicks in, and because the CPU is doing a lot of work to do that recording. So that's sort of a known thing, and I try to pause as much as I can early on in a video so that I can pull out that noise and do the noise cancellation in Audacity, which actually works out rather well. It just can't perform miracles, right? I mean, it can't pull the noise out of my that's happening while I'm talking, because it's just not, it's indistinguishable from my actual voice. even though we as humans can hear it. That said, if I spent more time on it, I probably could tweak it out of there, but it would be... my attempts in the past have been rather hilarious, where I end up with some sort of robotic voice or otherwise. So that's why I don't bother too much with it. I'm just like, you know what? I got to deal with it right now until I can figure out how to dampen the noise physically in my office here. And actually, honestly, I've been thinking more often than not, I've been thinking of actually moving my recordings and stuff, actually moving into one of my other spare bedrooms, which actually has a rug on the floor and can probably absorb a lot. It doesn't have as much echo as you can hear right now, and all those things. Unfortunately, there's no internet connection in there, so I'd have to I have to run wires and stuff. So as you can imagine, my laziness has stopped me from doing any of that at the moment. But it is still something that is on my mind. I've also been looking at sort of sound dampening panels and stuff, like small ones that I can just kind of stick on the wall here or something. But we'll see if I ever get around to doing that. I more than anything else, I just need a brand new desk so I can sort of space all these things out and maybe get them far enough away from the mic that I can record more comfortably, or at least have room for a second monitor so I can, I can play games without my microphone taking up half my vision on the left hand side here. That's it. The perils of YouTube recording right here. First world YouTuber problems right now. That said, the thing I'm enjoying about Battlefield Hardline, the single player is what you would expect out of a Battlefield game, right? It's there as an afterthought. It's just a whole lot of adrenaline fueled nonsense, which makes it really good to harp on, in a Mystery Science Theater 3000 type of way, which is the way I try to approach most things on here. Although I admit freely that when I'm playing an indie game, I tend to be a little less harpy on them, a little less not harpy, but a little less. What did the British call it? Taking the piss on them a little bit, because I feel like, well, there's two things. There's two things that kind of work with it. One is that the indie games I play generally are really cool and really good mechanically, to the point where I'm like, I feel almost guilty, trying to make lighthearted comments of them, because it's really damn interesting, and it usually has me focused on actually playing the game and not focus on the entertainment factor. And the other part is the AAA games, on the other hand, they have this tried and true formula, and they're like, I guess they're a lot easier to make fun of, because their themes are so, I guess, I don't want to say old school Hollywood. They're very Michael Bay-ish in their themes. It's all like, they're still catering to adrenaline junkie men, basically. And you see it all throughout the Battlefield games, all throughout the Call of Duty games. You just see it constantly, right? And so it's such a meme at this point that it's very, very easy to just to make fun of that, to make lighthearted jokes about that, because it's just so ridiculous that you can't help but make just funny comments on it. And Battlefield Hardline's no different in that regard. I mean, you're supposed to be a police officer, but yet you're going around. First of all, you've got untold amounts of handcuffs. Like, I have never seen a cop walking around with, 700 pairs with a backpack full of handcuffs, like 700 handcuffs. I mean, even when you see them at events, where there's large public gatherings, like they're not using regular handcuffs at that point. They're using, zip ties, right? Because they're far easier to come by. So it's just it's just hilarious to see some of those mechanics in there, and then also like the idea that you're a cop, but you like every situation you get into, there's explosions and just mayhem and chaos. Like any evidence that you might have on a crime scene just gets like bullet riddled and just exploded and shot out the window and Lord knows what else. And it's just comedy gold. It really is. It tries very hard, especially comedy gold when the thing that you're harping on tries very hard to be serious. And Battlefield Hardline, in many respects, tries very hard to be a serious, like the single player anyway, tries very hard to be serious about what it's doing. Like, oh, this is, we got corruption and we got all this and we got, all this stuff. And then it's so stupid. It really is. It's so stupid. That's just hilarious to watch it unfold and just make comments on it. And I was just having a ridiculous amount of fun just doing that, just making all kinds of comments. I wasn't focused at all on the gameplay, which meant that I missed a lot of important details, like, hey, my magic wand that tells me all the evidence stuff is actually got a pointer on it that says how far away I am from the next piece of evidence, which I didn't even realize. I was just looking around randomly, like, hey, where do I go next? What do I do this? And it's like, oh, it's telling me right there, but I didn't see it. And it's crazy fun. It's hilarious. And if you're gonna, obviously nobody's picking up a Battlefield game for the single player. I mean, it's been a long, long time since a Battlefield game had any kind of decent single player. And the last time it did, it was a World War II game, right? So, I mean, it's just, you don't do that anymore. Right now, it's all about the multiplayer. And from what I understand, the multiplayer is actually competent, as it tends to be. But I still like to just dig into the single player of these games, just because it is just so easy. It is just so easy to just be absolutely enthralled by the ridiculousness of what you're looking at. So it's that's a thing. That's a thing. That sums up my live stream on Friday. Also, I have earned the nickname from Toad. I've earned the nickname of Mendoza, since the main character in Battlefield Hardline his last name is Mendoza, and so he did a little play on words there, and I am now Mendoza, and that's going to be a thing. That will most definitely be a thing. So I'm going to continue playing through that in live stream form. I'm not going to put that on YouTube because it's just going to be too much of a pain in the ass with the content ID stuff. So, and plus like I said, the sound is really, like, my microphone I am ridiculously loud, and there's a lot of loud noises behind me, a lot of loud hums and stuff like that. So it's just, it doesn't sound quite as bad on Twitch. It's bad, but not quite as bad as the recording that I have locally. So as long as you turn the volume down, you're probably okay. So I could also tell Twitch to upload it to YouTube for me on my behalf, but again, it's gonna be a pain in the neck with all the music and stuff in it. So instead of that, I have just highlighted it. I've made a highlight of the entire stream except for the 2 minutes when I'm trying to get my audio corrected and all that stuff. So I've also, I did the highlight and all that stuff. So that is out on Twitch right now. I tweeted out a link to it a little bit. I tweeted out a link to it after I saved the highlight. So that will be out there permanently. So if you want to go see what I'm doing with Battlefield Hardline, you'll have to look on my Twitch page for that. And I'm going to continue that on Twitch. That'll just be a streaming only thing that I do. probably will do some of the multiplayer at some point. I don't know how much. I'm kind of afraid to dig into the multiplayer because I'll be on Twitch. But at the same time, I haven't been getting. I'm getting the usual crew as far as viewers go. So I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable with just putting whatever I want out on Twitch and not worrying about attracting weird, crazy crowds. You know what I mean? That are clearly there looking for somebody who's actually good at something, and instead got me. So that's the thing. That's what I'll be doing with that. That also keeps me engaged on Twitch, so I don't keep brushing it aside and saying, "Oh, I gotta record stuff for YouTube." I do want to be a little bit more engaged on Twitch, and I actually want to be a little bit more engaged on Hitbox too. But I just haven't found a schedule yet that works well for me with all that stuff, because I have so many things that I'm recording for YouTube, and I don't, as much as I might want to occasionally, reduce the amount of videos I'm putting on YouTube, at the same time, I don't want to, because I actually like YouTube better as a platform, even though it's more of a pain in the neck to do things on. I actually like it a little bit better because the videos are edited, they're there, you can view them whenever you want to, and it's not a, hey, you got to be online to watch this, or hey, you're gonna go suffer through the Twitch VOD page trying to find things. It feels a little bit more like the kind of thing that I would want. Like I don't usually watch too many streams. I have occasionally been watching some streams, usually Total Biscuit streams when he's doing like, the co-optional stream or whatever it is, where they're playing board games and stuff. Man, I would love to, on a tangent, I would love to play board games. I have never played board games in my life, really. I mean, that's kind of a conceit. I've played, here's the extent of the board games I've played in my life: Monopoly and Sorry. Those are the extents of the board games I've played, or card games, or other things. Well, card games would be, obviously poker and all that stuff, but beyond that, like none of the card games like they play, like they've been playing like Battlestar Galactica and stuff like that. Like there are games out there, tabletop games out there, that I think look really cool, but I am a complete noob to all that stuff. Like I tried, there's somebody in the Wing Commander, what do you call that, community? what is that called again? Someone in the Wing Commander community came up with a tabletop RPG set in the Wing Commander universe, and for the life of me, I forget the name of it. But they released it all for free, like a PDF of all the rules that you're supposed to go through. And I have never actually played a tabletop RPG before. And I was reading through the rule book, and I'm like, I don't really understand anything I'm reading here. Like, I kind of do. Like, there's things in there that I understand from, like, playing computer games, like Dungeons and Dragons computer games, where it's like, oh, you got, roll for initiative, and you got it's a D20 system, and, you've got the THAC0 thing where it's like chance to hit, and, all that stuff. But having never, the computer was always calculating all that stuff, right? So having never had to calculate that stuff, and having never had to figure that stuff out on my own, when I sit down and I read a rule book, I'm like, I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know what I'm reading here. I mean, there's like, there's a universe backstory and everything else for the game masters or the dungeon masters to be able to create compelling stories and everything like that. I've never been involved in any of that stuff, and I would love to, like these card games that I see and all that stuff. I would love to eventually, at some point, be able to do one of those things, be able to participate in one of those things. But it's not, it completely boggles my mind half the time. It'd have to be something ridiculously easy, to get into, because it's not something I've ever done in my life, really. And, you know, I'm pretty sure I have a version of Tabletop Simulator somewhere. I haven't been able to find it, but I'm pretty sure I know I kickstarted it, so I have something somewhere. I just don't know where it's at. And I've been seeing too that there's a lot of people have been putting a lot of games up on Tabletop Simulator, up on the Steam community stuff, and they've been getting a lot of DMCA notices about them and things like that. So it's, you know, I could see using that for a lot of the online stuff. It's just I don't I have no experience doing it even in non-online situations, so I don't know how I could participate in that without having someone that's relatively, you know, easygoing with newbies. If any of that makes any sense. I feel like I'm trailing off here, and I don't know what my point was, other than I suck. which I guess is a point that I always make. So that probably should go without saying at this point. But it's yeah. I mean, those are the only things I really watch on Twitch anymore. So it's kind of a weird thing, I guess. You know, I always feel like the people on Twitch who get the most, I guess, love and attention are the ones who are doing like the esports stuff, and rightfully so. A lot of people want to tune in and watch their sports. I will never be good enough at anything, I don't think, to ever get into that particular category. Nor would I think I really want to, because that's a lot of work. That's a hell of a lot of work. It's a hell of a lot more work and time than I actually really physically have. So that's probably the driving factor behind that. And I guess I was also thinking about that because of Overwatch. Like there was a video. Overwatch, by the way, is the new Blizzard game that's like a Team Fortress 2 type of thing. That Blizzard's working on. It's their, you know, competitive shooter game. I was going to call it a first-person shooter, but I guess, yeah, it is first-person. So, yeah, it's a competitive first-person shooter that they're working on. And I noticed that they had a thing, you know, on Battle.net that's like, hey, you know, check here to be a part of the beta. Whenever we have beta signups for it. And I was like, okay, well, I'll do that. And then I looked online, and there was some videos of it. They had released a video of some competitive matches, and it's still in a closed alpha state, and they've already got people who are like talking about, oh well, this class is used in this role, and oh, they did this one wrong, and they're doing this competitive match this way, and just super hyper analyzing it, doing the shoutcast on it. And I'm sitting there thinking, holy hell, man, this thing's still in closed alpha, and people have played enough of it now that they can start to analyze what the hell's going on in there. Like, how would someone like me, who is not, in the inner circle, quote unquote, of these things, like, how would I ever actually be competitive in a game like that when everyone else has had like 2 years or whatever, has had months to just sit there and do nothing but that, right? And I'm just a casual guy, right? So, which is fine. I the way I view this stuff, I just do it for fun and just to be, just because I like to have fun doing it. There's so many people that just take that ridiculously seriously because they're trying to make some sort of career out of it. And more power to them if they can make a career out of it. But honestly, I feel the same way about the MOBAs too. It's like they're way too competitive for me. Way too competitive. Especially Heroes of the Storm. I don't want to harp on that again, but it's just like, it's supposed to be casual, or at least somewhat less hardcore than some of the more hardcore MOBAs, and it's like ridiculously competitive. And I'm like, dude, I just want to have fun. What I really want to do is I want to find some organization somewhere, not organization, some group. I'm almost convinced there has to be some kind of group out there of gamers that are just casual and who like to just play, they like to group up in MOBAs and other like team events, team sporting events like this, esport events like this, and just, or games, I should say, and just play casually. Like, they don't care if they ever win. They don't care if how many losses they have, which is just the same way I said the other thing, only opposite. They just literally just want to have some fun. They just want to kill some time. They have a half an hour or an hour to just kill, and they just want to do stuff, right? There has to be something like that somewhere. There has to be. I feel it in my bones that there has to be something like that, because it's just I can't imagine that everybody and their grandmother is just like, oh, we're just gonna sit here and let and just have to constantly click on every name in the game and hit mute. I mean, literally, they're going to add a mute all button to Heroes of the Storm, which is fantastic because that'll be the first thing I hit every time I go into a game. Would be the mute all, but it's so. I mean, why have chat at all? Why not just give a pinger and be done with it at that point, right? It's like, can't we just get like some game mode where it's like I can just put a flag, a check mark or something that's like, I am casual. If you are not casual, get the fuck out. Right? Like, how hard is that to put a checkbox in there that's just like, I am looking for a casual game, and that's it. Right? And then all those people that are looking to be competitive and stuff, they can go find their own competitive game somewhere. In the meantime, I can just play with casuals. I imagine there wouldn't be too many people using it because there won't be too many people on there doing casual stuff. But I don't know. Maybe the community for casual MOBAs is bigger than I imagine it to be. Or than I'm led to believe it to be. Maybe we just need a MOBA that is just that. It's just like a casual MOBA. It will never be anything but that. The minute somebody's trying to be competitive, they get booted. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Actually, I guess to a certain extent, Awesome Knots is like that. But it still has that hook, right? It's like, oh, we need to make you pay for stuff. Because that's the only way we make money. And, I just want one that's like, here's one fee. Here's you buy the game, and then that's it. And then from there on out, we might release an expansion that you can buy, but whatever. It's just, you own the game, you own everything in it. You can play whoever the hell you want to play. You can do whatever mode you want to do. It's completely casual. We don't even track levels. You'll level up, but you won't. There's no top of the screen that says, here's what your level is compared to the other team's level. None of that shit. It's just like completely useless. It's like we're just gonna let you play, and there's not gonna be any chat or anything. Nothing. That would be, I think, ideal for me. Whether or not that will ever come to pass is another story altogether, because that's not really. I have a feeling I'm kind of alone in that thought process, and that it's not something that would be very popular or make very much money for everyone involved, because there's the fact of the matter is there's a huge market for esports stuff, and every game maker wants, who's doing some kind of competitive multiplayer thing, wants a piece of that pie, and rightfully so. It's I don't know what the last figures were, but if I'm not mistaken, and I probably am mistaken, it's approaching the almost $1 billion range there at some point. So I would it would not surprise me if if I wasn't too far off with that number. But it's yeah. I think I've said what I could say there. there is no point to what I was saying there other than yeah, the difficulty of things is a problem for me anymore. It used to be that I had a level of tolerance for difficult things, although it was never, I can't say that it was ever that huge a level of tolerance. It was just I had more time in which I could sit there and repeat myself over and over and over again and try to actually be somewhat good at something. That time has long passed. I need a rocking chair and an old man's video game is what I need right now. There's a so that's where I stand with the Battlefield Hardline stuff. Wolf the Red Hood Diaries, that's going to be that's only, I believe it's only about 2.5 to 3 hour game from what I understand. So that will be Tuesdays and Thursdays, and just pretty much going through that on those days. Also, I will be continuing with Sorcery. I just don't have anything recorded right now. I'm hoping to get something recorded tomorrow. I think that'll be doable. And have enough recorded for the week. So that I'm really enjoying that game. I know it's kind of a weird one for YouTube, right? Because it's like it's a choose your own adventure game, and it relies very heavily on choices, and it relies very heavily on just non-spoken dialogue. So I'm having to sit there and read aloud what it's saying and try to make it somewhat interesting. And I think, if you were to broaden your horizons a bit, it might be something that you could probably play in another tab while you do something else. It's certainly not something you're going to sit there and stare at, because you're just going to be staring at the stuff that I'm reading. But I kind of like it, and I think they have. I'll link you to an article on Pocket Tactics, but they actually have Inkle Studios, the ones that created or have done the mobile version of Sorcery 3, or Sorcery, I should say. Sorcery is actually an adaptation of an actual choose your own adventure tabletop thing, I think, or book. And they've translated it to, Steve Jackson, who was the original creator of it. Inkle Studios has gone and translated his stuff to the mobile platform, and that's what I've been playing. I'm on Sorcery 2 right now, because I'm in the City of Traps, well into the City of Traps. I don't know how long it's going to be, but I feel like I've made some good progress there. And then Sorcery 3 has just been announced that it will be coming out very shortly. I believe, from what I read, it looks like it's going to be coming out in April. And it's got some different gameplay mechanics from the other ones. There's some sort of free roaming mode or something like that as you do the overworld, which is kind of cool. I want to see how that plays out on my tablet. But it's I'll link you, as I said, to the Pocket Tactics article that has a bunch of screenshots. There's not much else we know about it other than it just continues the story, the journey. And it's got some boss battles. It's got some new mechanics in it, and it just it's more of the goodness that was already there, which I'm happy to see. So I'm hoping to also, if everything works out, it might be just a seamless transition, just like 1 to 2 was, where I just pick up one and move right on into the next one. There won't be any delay between them. So that would be kind of cool. You might want to jump on over there to check out the screenshots if you're so interested. Also, in the coming soon department here, Ironcast, which I have done a both a live stream of an actually successful live stream where I actually got much further along in the live stream than I did in the actual YouTube video that I made. And I've done a YouTube video of it. I will be putting that on the channel when it comes out. It's I am a Kickstarter backer of it, so I actually get access to it in 3 days from now. Well, 2 days actually, because it was announced it would be 3 days yesterday, and I'm just realizing that it's a brand new day. So 2 days from now, I should have access to that, and I will start recording some of that. I won't be putting it out right away, I don't think. We'll have to see. I don't want to, since I'll have access to it 2 days before everybody else, that'll give me a chance to at least record things, but I don't want to actually release a video until it's publicly available to everybody. So I may release a video this week. I may not. I may wait until the weekend or so to do it. We'll see. Let me see. That would be like, I'd be accessing it on Tuesday maybe, and then it would be coming out on probably a Thursday. So there's a possibility that it will make it for Friday, but I have to. I'm playing it by ear just to see what's happens there. I don't want to release it early. I want to release it when it's actually fully released and available to everybody, because I don't want to take advantage of that. So, other than to take advantage of recording it early. So that's a thing. Ironcast, really cool little game. It's like a steampunk puzzle quest kind of, but it's married. It's like puzzle quest married with XCOM almost a little bit, as far as not XCOM, FTL sort of, where you've got 9 days to build up as much resistance as you can before the big wave of enemies comes in and tries to wipe you out. So, and it's all based on mechs and everything else. It's a really cool game. I really enjoy it. So, I will be playing that for a little bit. It'll be probably a mini series, because there's no real. I probably will not be good enough at the game to get very far in it. I'm already failing pretty heavily as it was in the pre-release. So much like FTL, where I have played FTL a lot and still I've gotten all the way to the end, but I've never actually beaten it. And I suspect the same thing will be true with Ironcast. So it'll probably be a a short like mini series type of thing. I might like end it after like 10 episodes or something like that, but it'll be enough to sort of get everybody's feet wet on it and be able to see me get at least some sort of distance into the game. We'll see how far I actually manage to do it. And the same thing would be true for like Invisible Ink and other things that I've been looking at. Shattered Planet's another one, which I think actually Shattered Planet is actually released, if I'm not mistaken, or very, very, very close to it. So I would want to, I'd probably do something like that too with those, because they're all very similar in that vein, where it's like there is an ending, but it's so ridiculously hard to get to that ending that you sort of have to kind of limit yourself to a certain number of videos before you just take it offline and just play it yourself. Play it yourself offline after a while. And speaking of other things that I still have on my list is just ridiculously long here. But I keep trying to pick and choose things that I want to see what I want to play first and what I want to keep for later. And I'm having that hankering to play, to install and play No One Lives Forever. I only have the first game. I don't have the second game. I was never able to. I never put up the money for it. But I am having that hankering for playing it. But I'm going to hold off on that for a little bit, because I think the next FPS I want to play after Republic Commando finally winds down is Dishonored. And Dishonored is one of those things where I would have played it on a live stream, except I know that there's going to be nudity in it, and I didn't want to deal with that on a live stream setting because, there's nothing you can do about it in a live stream setting other than setting your stream to mature audiences only, which is still not really doing anything about it. So I didn't want to push my luck with that, knowing that ahead of time. But it is something good that would be good for YouTube, and I'd rather have it on YouTube, honestly, because I'm sure there's going to be lots of me replaying stuff in that game as I fail repeatedly. So that'll probably be the next first-person shooter I put on there, at least until the next Wolfenstein comes out, which is kind of close, but not close enough yet. Also, speaking of things that I've played in the past, Hawken. I haven't actually been in Hawken for a while, but apparently it fell by the wayside, which is why a lot of people lost interest in it. I guess I lost interest in it because it wasn't. I was having trouble figuring out how to unlock new things. Like the UI is kind of not so great. The menus are not so great in there. So I was trying to figure out how to unlock things and how to get new mechs and all that stuff. It was kind of a little bit confusing to me. That and the fact that you can't copy and paste your password into the game in order to log in. You have to actually type it. So and I've got a nice long, hard to guess password that a password generator generate for me. So it's that was another reason why I sort of haven't dug into it as much as often. But apparently, development company that was developing Hawken pretty much stopped doing anything with the game, to the point where I think they actually disbanded. And what has happened is that I'm trying to find the name of the company here. Reloaded Games, which was responsible for APB, the game APB. They have taken over the reins of Hawken, and they're going to go and fix all the long-standing bugs and basically take over the future of it and the various the servers as well and all that stuff. So that sounds good. That hopefully they can figure out how to make that game a little bit more not only accessible but a little bit more interesting to play. It's not kind of straight-laced, and a lot of people have complained about it being somewhat boring. I wasn't all that bored by it, but it was. I could see how people would say that it was boring. It was, it didn't really bring as much variety to the table as it could have brought, being a mech, an online, almost Mech Warrior-esque thing, which we never got, Mech Warrior Online. I don't think, at least not one that was any good. So that's they had something good there. They had a good idea. They didn't really flesh it out enough. So hopefully, Reloaded Games can do some good things with that, and I'll link you to the article that talks about that and what is going on there from Rock Paper Shotgun. So I played through Tales from the Borderlands, and that was a ton of fun. That was a whole lot of fun. I feel kind of guilty about it because there's a whole lot of me just laughing during the videos that I made, to the point where it almost got to be a little bit much, where I was just laughing and everything. But I was just having so much fun. I was so into it. I just loved every part of it that I was doing that, laughing at everything thing that I tend to do. It was, I enjoyed the hell of it, and I cannot wait until episode 3 of that comes out. But along those same lines, Telltale has announced that the Game of Thrones episode 3, which is called The Sword, what is it? The Sword in the Darkness. The trailer for that will be coming out Monday. So we'll get to see a little bit more. They've teased a few screenshots, which I'll link you to their blog, which gives you all the screenshots and everything there. We'll have a trailer coming out tomorrow, Monday, for that. And I assume we'll also get a release date on that, which, I mean, if they're releasing the trailer, usually it means they're pretty close to having a release on that. So I will be playing the heck out of that once we have access to that. Once I have access to that, that'll be rather cool. I'll tell you what I know from the screenshots. It takes place right before what were they calling it? It's not the Red Wedding. So the first episode takes place during the Red Wedding. This episode is going to take place just prior to the what did they call it? The Blue Wedding, or what was it? I forget what they called it, but basically when Joffrey and what's her face, Maribel or whatever her name is, are getting married. The planning and the preparations for that are happening. I won't spoil what happens. I know what happens, but I won't spoil it for any of you guys. But it sounds like we're going to be in that period of time. Also, we're going to have some sort of dragon encounter with one of Daenerys' dragons. Presumably, it'll be the wayward soul, whoever his name is, the lost forester, the one that was exiled to the across the sea. As he tries to get back home, I assume he will be the one that encounters the dragon. So that will be that'll be an interesting one. So we'll have to see. All I know is I'm going to make a whole lot of bad decisions, especially given that we now have, we've got Tyrion doing things too. Like, hey, I'm going to I've put you on the spot now. And now, we had that guy try to murder us down in King's Landing and all that stuff. So it's I cannot imagine how more deranged it's going to be. My playthrough is going to be as we go forward, but I'm sure it's going to be an interesting romp there. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll be doing that the same way I do everything else Telltale, which is sit down for the 2 hours, 2.5 hours. It's usually actually about 2 hours to play the episode, record the whole thing in one session, and then try to and then release it one day after the other, usually in like 20-minute segments, but it really depends. I'm trying to cut them in the dramatic parts, as you can tell from the Tales from the Borderlands area. So sometimes it'll be 20 minutes, sometimes it'll be 30 minutes, depending on how much I dope around in particular areas. So that is where we're going with that. That is what's happening there. Very cool stuff. I can't wait to play that, get my hands on that. Also, now I wrote a thing down here about VR stuff. I'm going to probably talk about VR stuff next week, because I have like a long, not a tirade, but I have a long thing that I'd like to talk about what my thoughts are about VR, the Oculus, and all that stuff, because there's been a couple trailers. I'll give you a little preview. There's been a trailer for Eve Valkyrie, which looks like a game that would be something I would love to play, and hopefully I can play it. But the entire trailer was done with someone recording directly from their Oculus Rift. So literally, they had a guy as a cameraman with the Oculus Rift on, looking around in-game during the 3 minutes demo that they had there. And the game looks beautiful and awesome. I still not convinced that I should buy an Oculus Rift though, and that's something I want to talk about a little bit more next week, because we're kind of running low on the time now. So that'll be a little bit of a preview. Hopefully I talk about it next week. I'm gonna put a little asterisk there to make sure I do. There's one more game that I have stumbled upon that was announced at PAX East, and I don't know much about it, but I'll leave you a link to the game's website. It's called Verona, and it's got me interested because A, it's sci-fi, but B, they say right on their website they're taking inspiration from Firefly, which is always a good thing to be inspired by, and Romeo and Juliet, which I can't say that I've ever seen anybody say, I'm inspired by cowboys in space and a tragic love story. So those seem like completely different concepts that probably shouldn't live together, and yet they sound rather fantastic having lived together. So I'm staying reserved about it. I want to see what that's all about. It's piqued my interest. It's the idea behind it is it's going to be a third person exploration / shooter, I guess, where you are the captain of a ship. You've got, a motley crew and all that stuff. And the idea is that a magnetic disturbance behind the sun has caused all the planets in the solar system to be drawn in, to have their orbits decay towards the sun. And it's still going to be like 1,000 years or something until, the Earth goes plunging into the sun. But in the meantime, the orbit has shifted enough that planetary upheavals have happened, lots of burning and various other things. And so the rich went and, there was a big space race because of it, lots of rioting and everything else happening. And very wealthy people have all gathered together and sort of went off and made colonies out in other solar systems. And the idea is that they then send this crew and various other crews back to Earth to collect artifacts and various other resources that they left behind in their rush to get away from the planet. And based upon what it's your job to go in, find stuff, and then there's also a lot of like dialogue. It sounds like it's dialogue driven, a lot of not crew management, but a lot of interactions with your crew. And the idea is to find the big scores, to find the things that people are really looking for, and bring them back and to your ship, and then you can sell them off to the collectors and whatnot that are looking for them. And that's how you're eking out your living. Much like in Firefly, they were sort of mercenaries not mercenaries, but they were sort of they were privateers for hire. You're sort of a privateer for hire in this one as well. So it's piqued my interest. I'm kind of interested to see what's going on there. So I'll leave a link to their website so you can peruse it and get the same information that I have, and then we'll all be on the same page there. But I think that will do it for this episode of Cube Ramblings. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and I will see you next Sunday. Thank you.